Welcome to my messy miniatures workshop, and today I've been having a lot of fun and getting very messy indeed, making paper clay tiles. Now I said paper clay, what I use is Jovi air dry clay. It is a paper clay, it's made from natural products. It's not one of the air dry clays that you get in the children's toy shops, which is kind of plasticky. You don't want plasticky. You want something that's got a natural component in it, and this has got a natural paper background. So that's why I call it paper clay, but it's not like polymer clays that are smooth and elastic, and they sometimes shrink. This shrinks a little bit, but not too badly. So what I'm doing here is I've set up my board. Now some people set it up on a 12-inch by 12-inch grid. I'm not that structured. I didn't know quite what I was going to be wanting to do. So I've just put some guide boards there that are the thickness of the tiles that I want. And I've cut myself a piece of pipe that spans that. So when I'm rolling out my little lump of clay, it will take it down to that thickness. Okay, so I've just did that to show you that. I'd prefer to do a bigger bit. Now what I'm doing is I found from trial and error, because I'm gluing it down as I go onto the floor, that it's best to do it in strips because you've got much more control over it. And I've got my square here that's the same width that I want, which is just not quite 2 inches. And I can square it up on the bottom of here. And I can cut out my strip really accurately. And I'm doing it lightly so I don't score the board, and I go across the top too, so that gives me a nice squared off strip. This is a bit like baking and rolling pastry, because if you don't put enough, I've used baby talcum powder, it sticks to the board. So that gives me a strip that I can control. That it's much easier than if you're trying to do a big piece. I've tried this. I did it a little bit before, and I thought, no, that's not going to work. It's far too big. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over here now to my floor, and I'm just going to put a bit of glue on it. Doesn't have to be a lot. And I'm going to lay my strip there where I've got my edge of my door. And then I can mark the flagstones. And I'm using an old card that I've cut to the right width. So I can just mark it. I don't have to cut right through. I'm just marking them. Doesn't matter if they're not dead straight, because they weren't always dead straight. And just so that they're not totally flat, I'm just going to bump it a bit with my fingers. I've done that with the other ones, and I've made a few marks on them so that none of these top flagstones were perfect. And I just get a pen and I just do a bit of daubling. You can use any sort of tool. I actually got a tool in the studio that does things like this. I haven't brought it in, and I've just do a bit of diagonals just to give it a bit of interest. It's not perfect. And then when this is dry, A, it's glued to your floor because you've been gluing it down as you go, but B, you can actually just do a light wash of dirty water over it to make it look grey and look like dirty flagstones, and you can do all the other fancy bits. What I've done here is I've just blocked off this is where my hearth's going to go for my fireplace in the kitchen, and this is the hearth for the fireplace in the hall. So I don't want to be putting my paper clay tiles underneath that. So that's what I've been doing, and I think that different people have different ways of doing things. I've watched my friend Maria do a nice neat job of her pavement, and mine's not quite so neat, but I've just worked out a system that I'm happy with, and that I know is going to be the same size. And basically it's using the same tool so that you always got the right width. And it's better to have the right width going acrossways, because then you've got some sort of uniformity, even though you want to have haphazard looking flagstones. So I'm just going to lay that there for a minute, and I'm going to just cut that off about there. I'll be making different ones up to make up my differences. So basically I've got a little bit that I need to take off there with my blade. So you can see it's a fiddly stuff, very fiddly, but we're getting there. So that's made it nice and neat there. Just mark my little tile. Just there, that's tricky. Anyway. And I'll just do that one there. So I shall continue to do that, and then I will do the big room. Not sure what else I can tell you at the moment. This is the product. It's messy, got to be prepared for a bit of mess. Somebody asked me a question about making people out of them and making hands out of it, but it wouldn't be very good because it's not as durable as when you make hands out of Fimo and you bake them in the oven. If you bake them at the right temperature, they're quite durable and they don't break, but this would tend to break, I think. I don't think there's enough strength in it to be able to do hands and feet. So it's only really for paving and cobblestones and bricks and some of the effects that Rick Pearce used to do on his buildings. And if you want to Google Rick, you'll find he did some marvellous buildings out of paper clay. So I hope that you got a lot of inspiration out of that, and I shall see you tomorrow.